On Wednesday, June 17th, we left the apartment in Reutlingen after being based there for 5 weeks. We now headed northeast, heading towards Berlin and a regional convention along the way. And on the way through the Romantic Road in Germany, we're going to visit Dinkelsbühl and Rothenburg. I have prepared a previous video of our visit to Dinkelsbühl, so now it is just a short drive from Dinkelsbühl to Rothenburg. Our next stop is the small city of Rothenburg. Rothenburg got its name from the red castle, the Rothen and Berg, that stood above the Tauber River, and the name is officially Rothenburg ob der Tauber. In 960, the first community was established in the Tauber Valley. An imperial castle was erected in 1142, and a community later named Rothenburg developed on a hill next to the castle. In 1356, an earthquake destroyed the entire imperial castle and parts of the city. In 1400, with over 6,000 inhabitants, Rothenburg was one of the largest cities of the empire. In 1634, the Black Death, bubonic plague, swept through, killing a significant part of the population. The town never recovered and never modernized. In 1945, the city was the victim of a bombing attack by the Allied forces. The eastern part of the city was destroyed, and a total of over 40% of the old buildings went up in flames. Generous financial support from all over the world enabled the destroyed areas to be restored. And on this overhead map, I've highlighted the places in Rothenburg that we visited. The guest house that we stayed in was mentioned in Rick Steves' City Walk. The building was constructed in 1450. Our room was modern. We had breakfast in a breakfast room lit by candles. This room is the formal dining room. And this room is the breakfast room I mentioned, and as you can see, it was lit by candles. Our room was on the second floor down a long hallway, and you can see that our room was modern. And in Rothenburg, one of the main things to see is the wall. And we walked the entire wall. I believe it was about 1.5 miles. Gives you quite a view of the city to walk around that wall. We spent about an hour in the evening walking on the wall. And this photo was taken at 9:14 p.m. From the elevated path, you look down on red tiled roofs and narrow streets, then out to the Tauber Valley beyond. Sections were heavily damaged, especially in 1945, and painstakingly rebuilt with the help from international donations, a restoration story noted on plaques along the route. The old town walls encircle Rothenburg, its medieval center, with about 2.5 miles of stone ramparts, gates, and roofed walkways you can walk along. Built in the 13th century when the town was an imperial free city, the fortifications still read as a working defensive ring, punctuated by gateways. This little square is a tiny fork in the road, a bright yellow half-timbered house at the center, with a tower from 1385 rising behind, and another gate tower marking the downhill lane. This is Castlegate, created on the site of the former imperial castle, which was largely destroyed by the 1356 earthquake. Castlegate dates from the 12th century and is the oldest and largest gate tower from the 16th century. One interesting thing about walking along the wall is that you are so close to everything that is going on. In the wall at various places and in the gates, we found what is shown here called man doors, a tiny door that is cut into the gate or the wall. At night, the gates would be closed, and someone coming home late would have to be let in through the man door, and they would have to leave carriages and horses outside. It would be difficult for an army to get in through this small door. And there are still horse troughs in the city. There is a nice view of the half-timbered construction of the buildings. You see how the timbers are placed, and between the timbers, the space is filled in with rubble or whatever they might have, such as rocks, mud, and smoothly plastered over and painted. This is St. Jacob's Church. James in German is Jacob, so this is St. James Church. In front of the church and shown in the upper left is a statue of St. James. It is said that James walked all the way from Jerusalem to Spain to preach the gospel. The church also claims to have a drop of the blood of Jesus. The windows behind the altar are originals from the 1330s. St. Jacob's is a Lutheran church. In medieval times, it was Catholic, the home of the religious order called the Teutonic Knights. These were warrior monks who dressed like knights in armor with a cross on their chests. The entire town became Lutheran in 1544. This is a memorial to a massacre of 450 Jewish citizens there in Rothenburg. Under the pretext of an alleged sacrilege by the Jews against the communion wafer, the impoverished butcher or executioner or rindfleisch from nearby rampaged through the area with the sole purpose of killing Jews. 450 Jewish citizens from Rothenburg took refuge in the former imperial castle, but to no avail, as the Jewish adults and children were slain and burned by their so-called Christian neighbors. These are called patrician houses. In one of these, the same family has lived for over 3 centuries. You can see how the carriages were able to be brought inside. Notice the door is big enough to allow a carriage in, with a human-sized door cut into it. To the left of the door, notice also the 4 old-time doorbell pulls. The night watchman tour was very interesting. This fellow led about 100 people through the streets, stopping at interesting points and telling stories about the past. At one time, there were 6 night watchmen on duty in the city. The main concern was fire, on which discovery they would sound the alarm. In our tour, he did very well. No tickets, but a cost of €7 per adult in cash. Our tour was in 2015. I just noted that in 2026, What to Do in Rothenburg lists the night watchman tour with photos of this same watchman.
In front. A part of this building is from 980, but just the foundations and the cellar. The upper part is from 1550, which is nothing special here. But it has a special name. Outside it's written in German language that this is hell. It's named hell. And that's coming from a time long ago when a part of the street back there where we come from looked a little different. Maybe you realized there was a high wall and a huge building behind it. Maybe not. It was a monastery, a Franciscan monastery, long ago. And on the other side of the street is the outside wall. So the space between the wall of the monastery and the outside wall was closed to hide the monks from public views. The street was dark, like a tunnel. So they called it hell. The whole street. And the name of the building, it still reminds of this old situation. And even this is hell, it's still a nice place. Because it's a pub and restaurant, and it's open late. So when you people walk around in our city streets, and there's somebody showing up telling you, go to hell, it's a good recommendation.
This is the market square, and on the left, in front of the building, you can see St. George's Fountain. The fountain and the building come from the 1600s. The new town hall is a massive brownstone building that takes up the entire long side of the square. This new town hall comes from 1570. This is at the front of the old town hall. This building dates from 1250. Notice the arched entrance is a passageway into the courtyard, and the corners at the bottom of the entrance, you can see the protruding cornerstones. These were for protecting the building from reckless horse carts. At the top of the square is a large white building with a clock known as the Councilor's Tavern. This building is from 1466. This is where the council members met after work for a drink. The clock becomes the focus of every tourist at the top of the hour. Every hour between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m., the bell chimes and the windows on either side of the clock open and some small figures appear. When we were there, the courtyard was full of tourists, and the display did not live up to the hype that it was given. A scene such as this was seen in many places in Germany You'd be walking past a butcher shop, and on display would be many, many types of sausages and cured meat. Rothenburg has an extensive crime and punishment museum. It was very entertaining. It is interesting that there were written laws for the use of torture. Capital punishment could only be used with a confession. However, there were authorized stages of torture used with the intention of obtaining a confession. Many of the accused did not survive to the point of confession. In front of the museum stands a dunking cage for humiliating a wrongdoer. They could be dunked in the water or just displayed in the cage. This illustration shows a neck violin for quarreling women. This must have been a frequent issue, as there were several items used for this problem. This illustration shows that waterboarding is not new. As many of us enjoy coffee, I thought I would read this memorable thing to you. The use of this forbidden beverage could be easily detected since all coffee was roasted before brewing. The Kassler Ordinance of 1766 contained the following in regard to excessive coffee drinking. Number 1, beside weakening the health of a person, coffee also ruins the nerves. Number 2, the further use of coffee is forbidden in all villages and on all day laborers and farm hands. Anyone found disobeying will be fined 10 thalern or imprisoned for 14 days. Anyone who gives evidence that a person had disobeyed will be given 5 thalern. Number 4, in cities, reputable and rich people may keep drinking coffee. Number 6, day laborers, domestics, and apprentices are not allowed to drink coffee in the city. And another ordinance. In 1627, the City Council of Rothenburg criticizes the cohabitation of farmhands in unlocked rooms because it was proved that most pregnancies resulted from this. If the master allowed this living together, he was fined 2 Reichsthalers. This torture device would be tightened down on limbs and fingers. Our visit to Dinkelsbühl and Rothenburg was very interesting and enjoyable. I highly recommend visiting these 2 older cities. We were leaving that area now and on toward Berlin. On the way, we will enjoy a regional convention and then end up in Berlin.